Namaste, I am Jamil Kanki, a student at Gurukul Mahila Arts and Commerce College. Regarding upcoming international seminar on Dr. Savita Didiji, I introduce you to the respected principal of Gurukul Mahila Arts and Commerce College, Dr. Anupamratanshanker sir, as the conveyor of this international seminar. So let's continue the conversation.
Sure.
What do you think of DDG and what is the first image or moment that comes to your mind?
Okay, Namaskar. The first image of Didi ji, if I go down memory lane, it goes back to 1972. Uh, Didi ji used to come for her training in Manipuri trance, and my father was posted there as a professor in education in Manjari College, which is also called as ODM College. And we had the good fortune of making arrangements of DG's stay there. I think I must have been around 8 or 9 years of age. That's my first memory of DDG. She was dressed uniquely in her immaculate style. So that's the first image I have of DDG. And I remember her coming to a place. Yes, I was mentioning about my younger brother, Dr. Padmanabh Nagar, and he was born in that year. So Viviji had come home, and my father said as to what should we name the child, and she said Padmanabh. Padmanabh is the name that was given to my brother by Viviji. So our association goes back to 1972, and my father was very close, and one of the things she mentioned to my father was that I have an ashram in Porbandar, and I'll be happy if after your retirement you could come and serve in our organization. So that was 1972.
It's amazing. Then how did you first meet with DDG and have a personal or spiritual effect on you?
Yes, since we were very young in those days, there was not much of conversation I had with her. But then we, when we came to Porbandar, there was an incident that took place, in my wife's life. Dr. K.P. Pandya, she had some administrative issues, and the principal, had to be told something very categorically. So that was an instance, wherein Didi ji handled the entire problem with such effortless ease. She immediately took the phone, called him up, and I still remember she said that "Amari dikri છે એનું તમારે ધ્યાન રાખવાનું છે." That was quote unquote, and that's a big issue, administrative issue was there, and she was instrumental in resolving that. And of course, she called me up later, and then we had a nice interaction. She asked me about my welfare. At that time, there was an Odidra college here. So I was working as a lecturer, and that was in 1994, I think. This incident happened in 1994. So my image is one of DDG is of a person who is, adept in the art of administration, in the art of management, and how to handle matters, which was slightly tricky, but then she did it with, marvelous precision, accuracy, and after that, she didn't have to face that issue. So that is the image I have. And talking of the spiritual dimension that you mentioned, you see, I have been, so to say, it's for decades that our association has been, and finally, this is homecoming from me. For after having served for around 12 years as principal in Godhania College, I was given an invitation by Mahendra Bhai, that's Nanji Bhai's son, that I should join Gurukul. So that it was virtually, an echo of the promise that Didiji had made to my father that after retirement you should come and join here, and so this was, perhaps a cosmic design. He could not join, but it, you know, as an image of your own parent, you could, join. And I've been serving here since 2017, and I I have had that spiritual experience even when Bapuji's seminar, we were working on in 2022. As you know, our preparations go back to 1 or 1.5 years at least. Even in the case of DDG, we started almost 1.5 years back. So when we were working on Bapuji's seminar, I could feel that Bapuji's, consciousness was around and it was guiding us, and that's how we made history. We had almost six trustees, visiting us. Our trustees, our respective trustees, as you know, they're spread out in various parts of the world. Some are in Uganda, in London, some in America, in the States. So getting them all together, all such respected and royal people together is a great ask. But then it was Bapuji's consciousness which brought all the trustees together on one stage during Bapuji's seminar. And even here, when we were working on Didiji seminar, I was instrumental in translating a book written by Didiji in Gujarati. It has been rendered into English. So during that process, I could feel the consciousness of Didiji, which was all pervasive, and she was subtly, guiding us. I could really feel that. And it's so marvelous actually to have read her book. You see the kind of depth she has, you know so far as her understanding of Indian ethos, Indian value systems, Indian ethics is concerned. She's so much at ease with the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Shastras, and in all those discourses that she gave to the students, when they were leaving Gurukul. I think every one of those discourses an insight, into Indian ethos and culture. So she is still pervading, her consciousness. We know that she lived from 1940 as the principal, of Aryakanya Gurukul till 2006. So even after it's almost more than 20 years, 19, 20 years, she has left her mortal body. But then you feel that her consciousness is right here. Even at this moment, when I'm talking to you and the teaching staff and all of you, I feel that it's her consciousness which is making us do this.
Yeah, we can see that Didi has a great management skill and how she was derived spiritually. The next question is, if you had to describe DDG in just three words, what would they be?
You encompassing the entire personality of DDG in three words, I think she could be referred as Sat Chit and Anand. Satchidanand. She was a strong votary of truth. I feel that in my own experience, when Didiji was handling Keki's entire problem administrative issue, and her adherence to truth, her steadfastness to this universal value of truth. So she is Satya, Chit, as I already mentioned, this the all-pervasive consciousness. Just imagine this, tribute of a brother to the sister. One of the last wishes of Didi was to have a museum made for her, wherein all that which was associated with her life, academics, dance, literature, all that should be preserved for posterity. And it took around 10 years, but then the brother Mahendrabhai, Puja Mahendrabhai, he fulfilled that last desire of his, sister. So that's an amazing brother-sister bond, and it's on account of that chit, the consciousness, which is so pervasive, which was slowly driving us forward. That made us, realize the museum and eventually the seminar today. And Anand is a state, see the difficulties she encountered, right? In the initial, even before independence, when women education was virtually unthought of, Bapuji, Didiji, they all started this yagna, I would call it, women's education. And in those days, how difficult it would have been to convince people and parents to send their children, right? In those days, that was possible because I think somewhere you are in that state of Divyanumad. That Anand is there, that divine happiness is there, that you're doing it, for your nation, you're doing it for the larger welfare of humanity. You see, the takeaways that you have, her education at Aryakanya Gurukul Baroda, her education at Shantiniketan, her, the diploma that she got from London. If you take all these, experiences, add them together, when it comes to Didiji, you would find that, she is able to achieve so much, because she had perfected the dance form, one of the very important forms of say performance and expression is dance, and she was so adept at it, and that's where I would again refer back to my encounter with Didiji at Manipur, that she was always smiling there. She had a radiant smile on her face, and she was so deep into it that even those postures and movements which were meant for only men, only for the purush, even those movements and those playing on the mridangam and all those beats and all, wherein you'll find only male principals executing that. She was so committed to her craft that she went where no man had ever gone before, as they say. She did things, she explored things that no man had ever done before. So that state of Anand, so three words I think that describe, Didiji is such an Anand. And what I would want to add is that she was a very good unification of what we call as, in education and human values, as having the head of Shankaracharya, the intelligence of Shankaracharya, the heart of Gautam Buddha. She was very compassionate, and the hands of Janak Maharaj, King Janaka. He was known for his, charity, right? So you find that all these three, principles, value systems, they find, a kind of a unification in the life of Puji Devi.
Yeah, I agree, sir, that Satyajit and Anand are the words that describes her perfectly, and it's an amazing personality DDG is.
True, true.
What is the teaching or idea of DDG that has stayed with you over the years?
Yeah. I think the best of ideas that Didiji expounded, is to put it in, the most, say, in a kind of an epitome of words, is, living up to the legacy of this great motherland of ours. The country, which has so much to offer. I think she was carrying the Rashtra, the concept of Rashtra, the concept of motherland in her heart. All these performances, that students of Gurukul, whether it's the Satyavan Savitri, performance, or the Ganga performance. Students of Gurukul, with students of Gurukul, she would travel all around the world, going to Africa, going to London, and there's so many, incidents that you have. On one occasion, when she was supposed to perform with the students, she found that the setup was of a corporate, it was a kind of a corporate setup, with tables and chairs and drinks and all, and she refused to perform. She said, I'm not going to perform in this fashion. You see, if you really want to see Indian ethos and culture reflected through my performance and the performance of my students, you'll have to be seated in a particular fashion. She made them do that, and the audience willingly do that, and then the entire performance was just mind-boggling. So the legacy of the country, what our seers, what our forefathers, what our patriots, we have won the freedom of our country on account of, the work that was done by the patriots of this country. There's so much of blood which has been shed in order to, free the country from the English rule. And it's our duty and responsibility to ensure that we not only preserve the freedom, but then as a legacy we transfer these values to the coming generation. And that's one of the purposes of having this seminar. When we see the title of the seminar is the life and work of Dr. Savita Didi N. Mehta. You're not merely talking of her life, at an individual, personal level. We are also going to examine the work. And this Aryakanya Gurukul, which is the only Gurukul of its kind in the entire country, that is the work, that is Didi's work. And it is our responsibility, it is our duty that we, not merely preserve, we not merely nurture, but then we carry forward this legacy. So the legacy of Bharat, I think the works, the writings, the talks, the Bharat that we talk of, not India. India is a term which, of course, comes into existence with the 15th of August 1947. But then we would want to talk about that Bharat, which has, centuries and centuries old of value systems, right from the times of Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, till contemporary times, Swami Vivekananda, Dayanand Saraswati, Rabindranath Tagore, that entire lineage, of ideas, that is what even Plato spoke about. That ideas are permanent. So Plato as an idea, DDG as an idea. These ideas have to be recontextualized with the changing times, and I think it's so very important. It's very crucial for all of us, more because Didiji belonged to Gurukul, that we spread the word, that the ideas she embodied, the work she did, that life and work should become a model for the coming generations, and for the world at large.
Yeah, that's right. DDG has taught us to respect our motherland and pass our culture to the next generation.
Absolutely.
So the next question is, how did she inspire people to bring values, not just thought speeches, but also into their daily lives?
Yeah. Now you just see the daily routine of the students of Aryakanya Gurukul. How value systems are not something out of the world. Value systems are not something that you're distant from it. Value systems are to be lived, lived on and lived through. So if you see the entire routine, of the students of Gurukul, getting up early in the morning, that's a value system, right? We get up early in the morning, right? I've had this habit, even I was in a Gurukul down south. So all these years, getting up at 4 o'clock, you know, that's a habit. So that's how you live a value system. Then offering prostrations to God, right? So prabhatam, you thank God, you thank God. So that's a value system. You thank God. Why? Because He has made you, He has made you what you are. You are here today on account of the will of God, right? How can you forget? You thank God that He has given you two perfect hands, two perfect legs. He's given you eyes. He has given you ears. And when you contrast it with those who do not have this, you know, those who are the Ganjans, you feel how blessed you are, right? You thank God. You enter into that activity, you know. Then you go to the bhojanalaya for your morning breakfast. Then you come back, to the college. It's like every Thursday you have yagnam here. So transfer of tradition, transfer of culture is taking place. The attendance and classes, right, from 7:40 after prayer, from 8 to 1:20. That's the discipline. And then in the afternoon again for the college students, we have this short-term programs, NSQF programs from 3 to 5. So the hostel students again go back, they have their evening prayers, and then they again go to Bhojanalaya for their meals, and then from 8 to 10 they have their study hours, and then they go to sleep. So one of the messages that Gurukul advocates is having a system and having a timetable that your life is valuable, your time is valuable, and parents, with so much of trust on the organization, they've sent their children here. So I think it's so very important for all of us to ensure that we follow the timetable. Why? Because timetable gives you a sense of discipline. And that is what Didi advocated her entire life. Without discipline, we cease to be human beings. It is discipline which makes us human beings. So that's one thing which I feel is being carried forward. You find that there is a system for everything. You don't do things just for the sake of doing it. You do it, with a very sharp intent. You do it with a very sharp purpose, and that there has to be, a follow-up on a regular basis, and eventually, this is what you would want to, or where you would want to go. Realize that. So, through patience, through perseverance, and most importantly, through purity, you can realize the goal of discipline. I think discipline, duty, devotion, determination, and discrimination. These are the 5 Ds that you can definitely take from the life of Nidhi, which she not only lived, but then as a role model. She was so committed to her duties. She was so committed to, to her vocation, so devoted. You see, getting up early for a couple of days is fine. Whether you do it as a habit for your entire life, right? Duty mixed with devotion, mixed with discipline, and with determination that this is where I want to go. Just imagine there were just 7 students, right? In 36, when the ashram was established, there were just 7. Imagine how much of struggle and how much of challenge they would have faced in order to encourage the students, particularly the girl students, to come and join the ashram. And that's where Didiji undertook pilgrimages on foot. She went door to door, convinced everybody how important it is for all of us to preserve the great Arya tradition. It's Arya Kanya Gurukul. You see, what's unique about Bapuji and what's unique about Didiji is also this fact that we need to remember that it's not named after an individual. Arya Kanya Gurukul. It's Arya Kanya Gurukul. It's not Nanjibai Kalidas Mehta. It's not Dr. Savita Didi. It's not after, it's not the individual that is important, right? It's the organization. The organization stands for the nation. It is for the entire parampara. It is for the entire legacy. That has to be valued, that has to be preserved, for posterity. Otherwise, I think the present generation would not forgive us if we do not execute this duty. I think the onus is on the current generation to pass on this legacy, to the next and the subsequent generations. So I think if you would want to make a compendium, duty, devotion, discipline, determination, discrimination. That was, the 5 Ds that she emulated, and all for the letter E, that is education. If you want to be educated, practice the 5 Ds, right? Why? Well, by following the steps of ABC. Always be careful.
I totally understand. DDG often spoke through both words and action. Can you mention a small act of hers as she spoke values?
Yeah. It's in the same context that I had earlier narrated about KK Madam's administrative issue. And there was also, a charge of harassment, why people in the same work, area should follow a work ethic. There shouldn't be any bossism of any kind. I mean, everybody is here to execute one's duty, right? So that matter had flared to a great degree, and it's again Didi, who spoke, spoke to our honorary secretary Suresh Bhai Kothari sir, and asked him to summon the principal, and both Katie madam and I were invited there, and there was this deliberation, and eventually, it was the intermediation, of DDG through Suresh sir that he convinced, advised the principal that this is not how you should treat your colleagues. They also deserve their, an equal share of respect. And this is what, in the world of academics, this is what we have to learn. That as students, as peers, you need to respect each other. You give respect and you take respect, it cannot be that, okay, I expect everybody respects me and I don't respect anybody. That's not how things go, right? It's always a two-way traffic. So that was, I was a live witness to that, episode, wherein on account of the intervention of Puja Didiji, a problem which had flared up and could have turned into a court matter, was, by her judiciousness, it was solved and solved very well with that.
Yeah, certainly we can see that DDG, how she represents her leadership skills.
Absolutely.
So, what do you think? What would be the DDG's message to the younger generation?
Yeah, Didiji has a very powerful message for the younger generation. What could be achieved through education could only be achieved through education. There is no substitute for education. Please note this, that when we're dealing with the life of Puja Bapuji, and when you're talking about the life and work of Puja Didiji, you would find that the emphasis they lay upon is on education. Right? Shaping, you would have noted the tagline of our seminar, shaping generations through education. It's so very important, it's so very crucial to have a message, We're talking of role models, right? We talk of Mary Wollstonecraft in the Western tradition, we talk of Rebecca West, a number of feminists. But then I think all of them pale in significance to the stature of Puja Didiji. She was very tall, very, very tall, and I'm not talking of her, physical stature. In terms of her intellectual height, right? Imagine a person who knows the Vedas and the Upanishads and the Shastras and the Arya, Samaj traditions. She was so well versed and so convinced about it that she could convince others. Unless you're convinced, you cannot convince others. And that is, a very strong message that Didiji wishes to give, by projecting herself. Although maybe that might not have been an intention, but in retrospect, we could always see that she's a role model for us. We need to have role models like Dr. Savita Didi and Mehta, in the entire country. The message that, the younger generation, could derive from her is that let's be educated like her. Let's preserve the traditions and the value systems of our country. See, she was born in Jinja, I believe, but then Her father made her study in Arya Kanya Gurukul at Baroda. Why? Because he wanted to ensure that the Indian traditions, the Indian ethos, the value systems, all that she should ingrain in her. She ingrained all that. What she took from Arya Kanya Gurukul Baroda, she ensured that was reflected in letter and spirit in Arya Kanya Gurukul Porbandar. So this is the legacy that we need to preserve, as I said, and we need to ensure that it reaches out to the to posterity for the future generations. The future generations should know, should understand, particularly in this part of Gujarat and Swaraj, that it is transformation can only be achieved through education. Nothing else. Nothing is more important, right? Please remember that marriage is not the end of your life. Please note that relationships and participating in family festivals is not the end of your life or the goal of your life. All these need to be deprioritized, and right at the top you need to have education. The message for the coming generations, I think Didi enshrined through her entire life and work, is that it's only through education can you achieve transformation. Education for her was for life, not for living. It was for transformation. Education is for transformation. From raising your level from the mundane to the divine, from the ordinary to the extraordinary. I think she was such a brilliant, such an extraordinary personality that this part of the world has perhaps never seen. I think there is no one of another kind. I think she was one and the only one. And I think all of us need to be very, very proud that we are studying and working in the same organization where once upon a time Dr. Savita Devi and Mehta worked. Thank
Yeah,
you.
truly, sir. I also get inspired by her, like her leadership style and her education style, her personality.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. And thank you so much. We truly appreciate your valuable time and the information you gave us on DDG that will inspire us and other generation for a very long time. Thank
Sure.
you so much
Thank
again,
you.
sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.